Let's take a look at the root cause of disrespectful culture from the Vedic perspective, because that was the previous slides. What's the root cause? And here's the cause. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 29. I believe this is in the Uddhava Gita section of Bhagavatam. We conditioned souls tend to feel rivalry towards equals, envy towards superiors, and the desire to belittle our subordinates. These contaminated propensities, along with their very basis, false ego, can be very quickly vanquished by meditating upon the supreme within every living entity, every living being. That's it's basic Bhagavad Gita, just expanded. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshosti na priyaha. And one of the topics this coming weekend, we're going to be in Gita Nagari and say New People's event. So one of the presentations that I'm going to be making is 3 of the 6 Gita values. It's, and one of them is Samadarshana, the first one, seeing all living entities equal. And how is that possible? Because the coverings are all different. Even within the same species, what to speak of species to species, so different, so different. But it's the soul within. That's Bhagavad Gita Fundamental 101, Pandita Samadarshana. But if one can see like that, then the problem of disrespect is taken away, because it's respect. The respect goes to the soul within. The soul being qualitatively one with the Supreme. The coverings are different, but qualitatively one with the Supreme. Actually, there's respect to the position of the soul. So the obstacle is the misconception of self or false ego. And then based upon the foundation of false ego leads to rivalry, envy, and abusiveness. And with equals, with superiors, and with subordinates in different manifestations. Disrespect. Disrespect towards others has as its foundation disrespect towards Krishna. Respect towards others has as its foundation respect towards Krishna, or the essence of who somebody really is. And then we can expand and expand on what does false ego look like? What does false ego do? The principle is misidentification of the self with what we're not, but that misidentification with the self with what we're not is resting upon what? And the idea, we're awarded a false ego because of a fundamental desire, that is desire to enjoy apart from Krishna, or competitorship with Krishna. If you have competitorship with Krishna, you're going to have disrespect towards Krishna, a disrespect towards others. And then, it's a civilization where people do cruel and hurtful and harmful things to one another. It's the basis. Even, even whatever you might say, even within families, even within communities. And what's respect? Anyway, the intrinsic value of another entity, that's the soul. Appreciate or admire the value of the soul and the potential as soul to become self-realized and fully, properly situated. And then respect is once that subtle is there, then it comes out in the form of actions and speech. One follows the other. So the root is disregard for Krishna or disrespect for Krishna, being a competitor of Krishna. But when that's diminished or absent or completely gone, then it's respect, the intrinsic worth, not necessarily supposing somebody has bad speech. I know some people who have bad speech. And it has everything to do with how they're confused. And back to the first slide, it's the position of those who are weak. It's coming from a position of weakness rather than from the position of what their real strength is. So if you can see beyond the weakness, beyond the speech and behavior that's not so nice, and draw from that other person somehow by gift Krishna gives you, the real nature of the soul, partly just by showing kindness, as is appropriate, of course, then the good nature of the soul can come out. So how to create that culture of respect? When I'm thinking of this slide, I'm thinking of how Prabhupada saw the wild, wild west. He was not that there's only Krishna conscious people in India, but the unrefined nature of people in general in the West is, astounding. Culture is minus, generally speaking. So what to do? What did he do to create that? So here's some points. To advance in spiritual consciousness, what to speak of simply being happy in life, we must cultivate the quality of genuine respect for others. Offering respectful gestures, trying to focus and express appreciation for some of their good qualities, and when possible, taking the opportunity to render some direct and humble service to them. These are some positive and potent ways of dissolving negative feelings of the heart. So it's really hard. Once there's something that's done or said that's hurtful, it's easy to hold on to it. It's a whole other thing to go beyond that thing that was said or done that was hurtful. What to speak if it happens again and happens again and it happens again. It doesn't just even happen with you, it happens with others and it happens and to like feel kindly disposed and see the intrinsic value of that other person. It's like, you want to stay away. You don't necessarily do, oh yeah, and get back kind of tit for tat behavior. You want to keep a distance from that person because they're hurtful. You give them half a chance and they'll do it again and do it again and do it again because that's their nature. So it doesn't, we, in Prabhupada's words, Spamdita Samadarshana doesn't mean you see a tiger and you go and embrace the tiger. Hey, buddy. Behaviors are appropriate. The scorpion or snake, that example from Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. Behavior is appropriate. But even when the behavior is appropriate, it's just like go back to that little story I was telling. When when Balaram conveyed to the members of Hastinapur what was the message from Ugrasena. The message from Ugrasena was very respectful. Ugrasena said, Samba is the son of Krishna Jambavati. Please release Samba and send him back to Dwarka. Very simple, and wow, that hit their button. And they insulted Ugrasena, they insulted the whole Vrishni dynasty, they insulted Krishna, they insulted Balaram for being the message carrier. They were really snotty. And then without even saying something further, they just went back and locked the gate. in Hastinapur. And then Balaram started considering what they had just done. He didn't just like react and smash them. He could have done that, but he considered very carefully, what are they really saying? And where is it coming from? And so because it was his duty, in some cases it's not our duty. In some cases it is your duty. You're to say something. If you see disrespect going on, say something or do something. That he's a Kshatriya. He's a leading, powerful person in the Vrishni dynasty. So he wants to teach them a lesson. He came meekly as a conciliatory person to make peace instead of war. And no, he was insulted, and on top of Samba being insulted. So he took his plow and started dragging the whole city of Hastinapur towards the Ganges, and was going to submerge the city of Hastinapur in the Ganges. And the whole city was moving because according to the commentary, his plow got really big. It wasn't just in his hand, it got bigger and bigger. So sometimes words of correction are needed, sometimes actions of correction are needed. But when doing so, he was considering this will help them become free from pride. That was his contemplation. Similar to what Krishna did with Indra. He wanted Indra to become freed from pride. So he did something appropriate. He stopped the Indra Yagya purposefully to curb Indra's pride because it's detrimental when someone is being so powerfully moved by pride. Now, there's a lot of discussion. Brene Brown is one of them, but many people, now we're going back to, the new people that don't know, just being introduced to spiritual life. Self-respect has its place in Vedic culture, but self-respect doesn't mean egotism. What does self-respect mean if it doesn't mean egotism? You know, being kind to recognize your own needs and seeing to your own needs, depending upon Krishna to see to your own needs. And as your needs are being met, then being respectful to others to help others meet their needs. I'm going to tell a little Bhakti Tirtha Swami story. Anybody here doesn't know who Bhakti Tirtha Swami is and would like to find out who he is? You all know. You know? Okay. Okay. Bhakti Tirtha Swami is an African American sannyasi. He grew up in a ghetto in Cleveland. And he told this to me personally, so I'm going to share it with you. He was so poor, in his closet, he had 2 shirts hanging. He brought back a friend. His mother said, your friend just has a torn T-shirt. Give him one of your 2 shirts from your closet. And it was an important lesson for him, being charitable, although you have very little, be charitable with even if it's just very little. So his whole life was, although from a poor background, very kind and very charitable disposed. When he grew up, during this period of time that I was in college, he was in college at the same time. It was a trend in Ivy League schools to give full scholarships to qualified people in poor backgrounds. They can't afford Ivy League tuitions. So he got a full scholarship at Princeton University. In 4 years, he was the valedictorian, #1 student in his whole graduating class, and he was the president of his graduating class. He was a leader and very, very intelligent. He was on his way to, during that, I can tell you, that period of time, it was a big deal. He could have had a fantastic career because he was a good speaker, very highly educated, a leader, Something happened. I remember specifically from New York, we sent some devotees going here and there to distribute books at colleges. One of the colleges was Princeton. He got an Ishopanishad on campus. He read it. He came to the temple. He liked it so much. The next day, he was living in the temple. And within 1 year, he was initiated. And then he confided in Prabhupada because he was a leader already by his nature. He got a chance to speak privately to Prabhupada and say, I'm very sorry to say this, but I find in the Hare Krishna movement, there's racial discrimination. And Prabhupada's reply was a big deal. I mean, the way that he tells the story is like, what's Prabhupada going to say about that one? Like a make it or break it kind of question. And Prabhupada's answer was, that's not good. But if you're disturbed, you're no better than they are. Meaning, you're on the platform of bodily consciousness. They're on the platform of God bodily consciousness. You're feeling hurt by discrimination, and they're discriminating. You're the victim, but you're no better than the perpetrator because of bodily conception of life. So it starts with self-respect. The soul within, not the covering of the soul. And if you can see yourself in that way, it certainly is an essential part of seeing others that way. See it the other way. If you can't see yourself as a spirit soul, how are you going to see others as spirit soul? Very simple. Too simple, but it's essential. So, back this way. Respecting the worth of others starts with accepting our own self-worth, fully acknowledging with implicit honesty our shortcomings, faults, etc. Now, there's this nice teaching about from Brene Brown, the gifts of imperfection. There's a little TED talk that I heard of hers, and it's really good. So, if you want to hear a really good TED talk, here's the link. Vulnerability. Well, you can be humble. I mean, when I speak on this topic, it invariably people in the audience that work in the corporate world say, if you're humble in the corporate world, people take advantage. And then the answer is be humble anyways. Because who's being taken advantage of? They're taking advantage of themselves. They're not taking advantage of you. If you have genuine humility, what's it resting upon? Your strength is Krishna. Supposing you don't have the strength of Krishna with you, then you fake it. You can fake humility or you can fake being strong, but it's a fake. But if there's genuine humility, genuine confidence that Krishna is your protector, it's this teaching of Rupa Goswami. There's 6 principles of surrender, and one of them is Rakshisha Titi Vishvaso. Krishna is my protector, and if Krishna is your protector, you're protected because who can push Krishna around? Be humble or. Then there's another one. Another one is Narada Muni had a conversation with a cobra. Now, who has conversations with a cobra? But it's a nice story. He had a conversation with a cobra and said, Cobra, you shouldn't strike. You should be humble. So when people found out the cobra wouldn't strike, they started taunting the cobra. He was being humble, not striking or raising his hoods. And so people were taunting him, throwing sticks and poking him. And he went to Narada, when I'm being humble like this, people are taking advantage. Narada then said, it didn't say you can't show your hoods. but for with a purpose, not with the purpose of, oh yeah, I'll show you who's strong, who's got poison, who can protect and defend themselves. So there are different behaviors in this principle of vulnerability or acceptance because there's intrinsic worth inside. It's a very nice TED talk. I encourage you to read it. So now here's a photograph on the right with people in different costumes from different cultures. And there's a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 29, same place referred to before. One who views all living entities with the idea that I am present within each of them, and who, by taking shelter of this divine knowledge, offers due respect to everyone, is considered actually wise. Such a man sees equally. It's Bhagavad Gita now, but it's Uddhava Gita. Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. Same message, just more elaborate. Is it possible? Well, it's not ordinary, but it's certainly possible. Krishna would be teaching it both in Bhagavad Gita and Uddhava Gita if it wasn't possible to see. Now, you can't see the soul because it's tiny, but at least through knowledge, see through the eye of knowledge, jnana chakshusha, you can see if the soul is present. And that's an essential part of our spiritual cultivation. To go from the material to the spiritual, it requires starting with seeing yourself as a spirit soul, not the covering, mind and body, and seeing others, not the covering, mind and body. And that soul is part of the Supreme Soul, who I have respect for, at least notionally. And then I can respect the soul within, although the covering may be what the covering may be. And the speech and behavior may be what the speech and behavior is. Like dogs bark. Just speaking that, I spent about 2 weeks in Houston, and right behind the ashram is um, an auto mechanics place, and they have a guard dog all night long. The dog is barking. I don't know what he's barking at. He's barking at the moon, or I don't know what, but he doesn't stop. And he must have a big. I haven't seen him. He got a very deep voice, so he's got a big body, and then a couple pauses, and I'm in charge. Stay away. It's my territory. I don't think it's a recording. I think it's an actual dog. It is just being territorial. So dogs are going to be dogs, and cobras are going to be cobras, and cruel and vicious people are going to be cruel and vicious. But that can, like Prabhupada coming to America, character for at least in the human form of life, at least some persons in the human form of life can change and become little spiritual. But it starts within and then towards others. Here's a very celebrated African American lady, Queen Mother Moore. And the person next to her is an ISKCON devotee, and she's a very elderly person. You can look up if you want to find out something more about her. As a staunch freedom fighter for several decades, I've seen endless futility of material struggles, many of which I concede arise from falsely identifying with the type and complexion of our bodies. Through the Bhagavad Gita, I have found solace. We are not our bodies, but eternal spirit souls that can occupy limitless types of bodies. This knowledge makes perfect sense to me, and I'm glad to finally find something that has such a resounding ring of truth to it. Somebody sent to me, maybe I forwarded to some of you in the room, there's a girl that's connected with Bhakti Tirtha Swami's iFast group. She's in Moscow, and she did some research and found out for $45, you can put up a 15-second video on the biggest screen in Times Square. And for 15 seconds, I don't know how many times it ran, but a big photo of Prabhupada, and the text says, you're not that body. So simple. Too simple. That one little point can be acknowledged and realized and live by it. It takes care of so much disrespect in the world. Or say it the other way, disrespect is based upon the bodily conception or forgetfulness of who we are, and then following from there. Here's a nice painting. Many of you recognize the nice painting. This is a painting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and over on the lower right corner, that's a dog, and over in the middle right side, that's Shivananda Sain. So here's the quick history behind this story, behind the painting. And it's already 7:28, so I'm going to try to finish up quickly. I hope I can do that. The stories are nice. Everyone can appreciate stories. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in Jagannath Puri for approximately 20 plus years as a sannyasi, devotees from Bengal would come every year to attend Rath Yatra, spend the 4 months of the rainy season in Puri, and then go back. There were several hundred of them, and Shivananda Sain, kind of like a village elder person, he took care of everything, their accommodation, their meals, crossing from one tract of land to other tract of land where there were guards, etc., etc., etc. And along the way, there was a stray street dog that joined their group of several hundred people. So he took care of the street dog like his own son, or like one of the people that he was looking after. And one day, the dog didn't come for his meal. So he sent 10 men looking in all directions, go find this dog. They couldn't find him. He was very sad. And then when he reached Jagannath Puri, after settling everybody in their quarters in Jagannath Puri, he went to pay his respects to Lord Chaitanya. This is the painting. When he went to pay his respects to Lord Chaitanya was on this nice seat, and he had coconut pulp from fresh coconut. And he was commanding the same street dog, chant Hare Krishna. So the dog, Hare Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya threw him some coconut pulp, and he's chewing on the coconut pulp. And then again, say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And so Shivananda Sain saw the dog receiving prasad from the hand of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and chanting Hare Krishna, and he's offering his respects to the dog. Culture respect. Same chapter. It's a nice chapter on respect. Chapter 29 of Canto 11. This is the same Uddhava Gita section. Disregarding the ridicule of one's companions, one should give up the bodily conception and its accompanying embarrassment. One should offer obeisances before all, even the dogs, outcasts, cows, and asses, falling flat upon the ground like a rod. Big surprise. Okay. Because of time, I'm not going to go through all of this. These are a list. On the left side is the words respect, and It indicates ways in which respect can be offered by words or by actions. Like let's just do the first one. Respect each and every person for their opinion and input. I mean, as much as possible. Leaders do this. Ramchandra did this when he was making decisions. He would consult his assembly, his ministers, those who were there to help him. He didn't always do what they said, but he consulted. It's a sign of respect. Doesn't mean because someone says this, you got to do this. Someone else says now you got to do this and that. Now what to do because this is not the same as that. So what do? You make decisions, but you offer respect. Anyway, who should we respect? The answer is all of the entities that are spirit souls, so they're worthy of respect. No, commensurate with their position, etc. Elderly people, women, wise people, etc., etc., etc. Respect is appropriate for one's position, but respect and never disrespect. And sometimes we meet people that like this. He's got a dagger behind his back and he's shaking the hand, but he's got another intention, just like Putana, because we had this whole discussion about Putana with the Chinese group. She came, da 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 da, and she had another intention. So they don't deserve my respect. So even if they don't deserve respect, show respect. It's your character. You don't have to embrace them. You don't embrace the tiger, but you show respect, not disrespect. That's the main point. We deserve to give respect. That's for our benefit. That's how a cultured person acts. And the opposite is disrespect. Our own heart becomes constricted, and our own spiritual evolution becomes restricted by that disrespect tendency. I'm going to end with this next slide. There's a devotee named Adi Purusha Prabhu, who's a VIHE teacher in Vrindavan, and he was invited and visited the Potomac Temple, and for 1 week he gave discussions on Bhagavad Gita. And what this presentation is his. So I'm giving credit where credit due. That's what leaders are supposed to do. This is from Mother Teresa. When we don't accept an undesired event, it becomes anger. When we accept it, it becomes tolerance. Yes? When we don't accept uncertainty, it becomes fear. When we accept it, it becomes adventure. It's true. When we don't accept others' bad behavior towards us, it becomes hatred. When we accept it, it becomes forgiveness. When we don't accept others' success, it becomes jealousy. When we accept it, it becomes inspiration. Acceptance is the key to handling life well. This is his teaching, Adipurusha's teaching. He draws from Mother Teresa, but it's the principle of acceptance of circumstances in life, which is a teaching of Bhagavad Gita. There's an episode in Mahabharata. We're going to, um, there's a nice illustration. It's not showing it. Yudhisthira knew the diabolical activities of Duryodhana, and he knew that Duryodhana wouldn't have done what he did, attempted murder, etc., without the sanction of his father, Dhritarashtra. So one time, Yudhisthira came to pay his respect to the blind uncle, Dhritarashtra. knowing all the nefarious activities he didn't personally do because he was blind, but he knew about and was acknowledging at least, looking the other way. He offered his respect. Yeah. Now here's our founder, Charya, standing in line like everybody else. And he didn't, because he was who he didn't hold himself above everybody. He stood in line like everybody else in passport inspection and visa inspection and everything and everything. Now I'm going to go quickly. This is a little video, and let's do the video. It's really short, and I want to end. Let's see. And actually bringing some light to the right place, regardless of race, of religion, of nationality. We are all brothers and sisters. If I see this person, this soul, struggling just like I'm struggling in my body, I have a reason to love you. That's deep. His words carry so much power. It's a full expression of his heart that comes through. Yeah, it is to that one. That's part of an interview. New York Post was interviewing Srila Prabhupada, and they asked, Swamiji, you come all the way to America. You must have come with a mission. What's your mission? Can you share with us? To know yourself, Prabhupada's voice. The reporter paused. To know yourself. Prabhupada, repeat. To know yourself. That's so simple. Too simple for some people. That's to get a little more fancy, but it's elaborate can come after the fundamental is established. Without the fundamental, this theme here is the fundamental of respect, and um, there's an interactive section that I don't have time for. Maybe we'll do it anyways. This is the discussion. Let's do it at the bottom. Two people, three people, four people, whatever you like. Please include everybody in the room. Was there a time when you unexpectedly received some recognition or respect? And what was that like? What did it feel like? And then the opposite examples where you, by little steps, can improve, and you're offering respect to others. Ways, two or three examples. I mean, this is there's a section I skipped over. Have you been in a situation where you've been treated badly, and what was that like? Some speech was really harsh, or some behavior was really harsh, or both. What was that like? How'd you feel? We didn't do that one. This is how can you go in the positive direction? The letter's small, but you can read them, right? So let's do it for 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then we'll go to questions and answers. When you're ready, go ahead. Okay. One of the signs that we're nearing a close is heads start coming up. That's the sign it's time to close up the discussion. Let's see if there's comments or questions or thoughts you'd like to share on this topic. Yes?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So our Vedic wisdom says that,
Hold it a little further away.
yeah,
A little further away.
yeah,
He's adjusting the volume, but you speak so he can adjust the volume.
okay. So we are to respect everyone. Sorry, not that topic. Actually, we are not the body. Uh, but I was just wondering, like, most of the time, like, with ignorance, we neglect the body. But I was thinking sometimes, like, the at the moment, for me at least, the body is the only vehicle to hear, to respond, to react. This is the only way to tap into that higher consciousness. So,
It's
is
not
it-
denying that we have one, but it's not who we are. That's deha and dehi, the body and the occupier of the body. It's just like, let's say, the mind. You can observe the thoughts in the mind, the emotions connected to the thoughts in the mind, but you're the observer, you're not the mind or the emotions and the thoughts. It's a small step, but an essential step. For spiritual life, we may manage the outside, but we identify with the inside. And when there's spiritual well being, it has a big asset to help material well being, the body and the mind. Spiritual well being leads material well being. The material well being is the shadow, and then there's that which casts the shadow. If you want material well being, you adjust the spiritual well being, not adjust the material well being. You don't deny it, but don't identify with it. You deal with it, manage it,
yeah,
but don't identify with it. Small thing. That's spiritual life. Small thing. Subtle. Now, does that respond to your question?
yes, Mara. I was thinking. So we also respect our bodily demands.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. But the mind too. That piece, the mind. But we don't identify with it.
yeah,
And don't expect that because you attend to the needs of the body and the mind, it's going to be spiffy.
mm,
There's not going to be any discomfort because I'm attending to it nicely.
yeah.
That's fool. That's very foolish.
Thank
Yes.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Um, my topic is about the self-respect.
Self-respect.
Yeah. So, is the self-respect is that symptom of that body or the soul? Does
Well,
the soul have self-respect and body?
when Brene Brown uses it, it's all three: the soul, the mind, and the body, the subtle body, and the gross body. Self-respect.
So, how do we differentiate, like, when there is a circumstance, whether it is the self-respect of the body or the self-respect of the soul? Because,
Well, you have to have intelligence to discriminate properly. Without intelligence, you can't discriminate properly. So you read Bhagavad Gita so you can get the intelligence to discriminate properly. Thinking, feeling, and willing, these are functions of the mind. Pains and pleasures, that functions of the body. And the conscious entity, that's the soul within.
mm,
My the main emphasis of this is differentiating, yes, but don't make the mistake of neglecting the day he and just be attentive to the day ha. That's it. That's the main emphasis of all this. So self-respect starts with the soul.
Mm.
And then I can have respect of others because of respecting the soul within and differentiating. Now back to your question, it takes intelligence to discern between this and that and the other.
I have one more
Now where
question.
does intelligence come from? Super soul.
Okay.
Now, next.
Yeah. So, does respecting means abiding what the other person says? Because mostly in the Indian traditional families, if I abide to my parents, that means I respect them. Can you please
So yeah, you
clarify?
can smile and do something else.
Okay.
Hence, there's shades
Mm,
of you concede. It's not always I'm keeping score of how many times I conceded and how many times they should concede because it's a relationship. But there's some discrimination. Again, the intelligence needed. There's some areas it's okay. It's
mm,
okay. Some areas it's not okay. So when it's not okay,
mm,
with a smile,
mm,
and you proceed with what you know is your real self-interest and the respecting oneself because that's respecting Krishna. Not fanatical, but in principle.
it's okay. Thank you, Maharaj. I have one more. Is that okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Um, like you mentioned about know yourself, and even Prabhupada says know yourself.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just understanding about, okay, we are the spirit soul and part and parcel of
Well, then
Krishna.
it expands.
So how, like, expand, how can you please elaborate on knowing
Sure.
yourself is knowing your uh, more of interest or aspirations, or
Well,
what is it more?
this entry point can get, should get, will get refined. But the entry point is my real self-interest is to serve the master. Myself is subordinate to the superior. And my real self-interest is to be in service. And then what does that look like? And then it gets refined. And then who I am, refined is you have a spiritual form.
Mm,
But the starting point is I'm the servant.
okay.
And then it gets refined as you go further.
Mm,
He's the supreme is the master. So I want to know what the master wants and then do that which the master wants because that's what service is. That's who I am. That's my real self-interest. And then it gets refined. Who the master is, who I am, what the relationship is, gets refined. Potentially at least. Okay?
yes.
Someone else. Over here.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you. I want to share of one feeling and one Chinese story.
Uh-huh.
The feeling is I very much uh, appreciate the message that conveyed in this lecture, uh, that the respect for others start with respecting yourself. And um, I think like when it's usually when we are um, feeling that we are getting hurt or getting and behave in a very reactive and defensive mode,
Mm,
that is when we start to lose the perspective. And um, trying and become the victim to behave disrespectfully. And on the contrary, if we are able to protect ourselves or listen to ourselves and um, appreciate and value ourselves, then it's more easily it's easier to uh, treat the world in a more
Respectful way.
respectful way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes. Yes.
the 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 story is related to what you also told, the story of Bhakti Tirtha Swami,
Uh-huh.
and when he was relating to Srila Prabhupada that uh he felt inside ISKCON there are racial discrimination, and Srila Prabhupada's response is that don't act on that bodily platform as the same as them. And there is a story I think conveyed a very same meaning in it's from Chinese culture. There is a quite famous writer and artist and government officer in around 11th century, and he has a good friend who is a Buddhist monk, and he used to um, have conversation with his friend, and they also trying to run into a competition, just a friendly joke, those kind of things. And once he told this Buddhist friend, say he said, when I look at you, you look like a pile of stool. And his Buddhist friend smiled and looked at him, say, when I look at you, you look like a Buddha. And and he was very happy. He thought I win the game today because I feel like I'm a Buddha and he is a pile of stool. And so he go home and relate this experience with his younger sister, and his younger sister said, "No, you're the one who is the loser because you are holding a pile of stool in your heart and acting on you're on the level of stool, so you are seeing him like a stool. And and on the contrary, the friend of yours, he has Buddha in his heart, and he's on that Buddha platform, so he see everything is Buddha."
Nice. Nice. That's hearing this, I don't know if you attended the class where um I won't say her name, but one of the girls that one of the ladies that always ask questions wanted to know is the moon spiritual or material? Did you hear that discussion? Nina Rani Sita is her name. She always asks these like bizarre questions. So I said, Sarvam Kalvitam Brahma. Everything comes from spirit. In that sense, everything is spirit. And to see material is to see it separate from its source. That's what material means. So, in that sense, of course, the energy of the moon is not fully spiritual, it's material energy, but it's spiritual because it's connected, separated energy, but energy of the Supreme, and in that sense, spiritual. So, how you see things depends on your consciousness. And if the center is right, then you can see things as spiritual. Even the moon is spiritual, or anything is spiritual. What's in your heart tells how you see the world. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.